Okay, we're back on these heads. Okay, part 3 of the teardown. We're going to start by doing the leak test on these valves, and we're starting with the, what is this, driver's side, left side head, and we're going to start with the exhaust valve. That's going to be the small ones. Remember, there's 2 in there. One is slightly bigger than the other, the circles. Okay, we're going to start by testing the exhaust valves. Pretty simple. We're going to use gasoline because it is thinner than water. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill up this port. We're just going to pour gasoline straight in there. Straight in there. And get it fairly full. You see about how I've done it. So that it fully covers that valve. And what we're looking for is it to get wet around the edges. Drip, maybe run out, something like that. You'd probably see it by now. Some people wait 5 minutes, wait an hour, wait 3 hours. You can wait as long as you want, but if it's not sealed, you're pretty much going to know pretty quick. And we're not getting wet at all. So that tells us that that valve is seated really well. And it's just going to be the same thing as, as you go down the line. Let's go down here. Let's fill this one up. Fill it on up. There we go. Now let's see. What is this one doing? I mean, I've done this before, and they kind of bead up moist around the valve when they're not seated well. As you can see, that is dry as a bone, which is great. So let's go to the next one. How about that? And then we'll go ahead and do this one as well. Oops, wrong one. All right. Let's see, did that one. Let's do this one. I don't see anything shiny and wet around there. Not this. That's not what I'm talking about. That's a little bit of oil from earlier. We're talking about right around the ring of that circle. Still staying dry, not beading up or dripping or anything. And these bad boys, you see how full? They're pretty dang full. So that's how you're going to test on your valves. And then wait, whatever, a minute, 5 minutes, an hour, however sure you want to be. The longer you wait, the more sure you can be. But I'm already pretty comfortable with the fact that these aren't even getting moist around the edges. I feel good. I'm gonna dump it into my bucket, flip it over, pour it in the intake valves, so we can check to see if our intake valves are gonna leak. Those are the bigger circles. Anywho, all right, this thing it's holding plenty good enough for me. I'm going to go ahead and dump it out, which is just exactly how it sounds. Pick it up, turn it upside down, dump that gasoline in your bucket. Stand by. Okay, I got that dumped out. Same thing on the intake side. Pour it in. Oops, I guess you want to see what I'm doing too. Plenty gas, and now we're going to look to see if that's going to leak. And it's not. We're looking good. Alright, moving on to the next one. Pouring it in the top. Pour a good bit in there. Yeah, whoop, whoop, whoop. Almost filled it too much. Let's come down here, let's look at it. And again, remember, we're using gasoline instead of water because gasoline is thinner than water. Water won't hurt. We're going to clean it out and dry it out and blow it out and all that stuff anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the gas is thinner, so it would leak a little more readily than the water. Or if you got a good seal, it won't leak at all, which this one looks great. So we're going to repeat the process Go down and do all 4 of these, and now this head will be done, and we're going to do the same thing to the passenger side. So over and over and over, same thing. We get all that done and we'll be back. Wanted to get you back in here real quick and show you. Here is our number 1 intake valve. You see how shiny it's getting around the edges down there toward the bottom? It's getting slightly moist. That is what I'm talking about as far as checking for the seal. Now that is not at all a concern. It's not a big deal. It's not dripping or leaking or running out. It's just kind of getting moist around there. A little bit is seeping very slowly, just beating up around the edges. That's not a big deal. It's kind of to be expected, especially in, you know, something that's this old. Now, replacing it would be better. Replacing the springs certainly would be good. The springs are what draw that valve up into place. That you compress the spring, it will push the valve away and open it. As that push rod lets off, the spring extends and draws that valve into its seat and seals it off right there. If the spring is weak, which God knows how many tens of hundreds of thousands of times these springs have been compressed over the last 40 or however many years, you know, it's not going to draw it in as with as much strength and tension. So sure, replacing the springs, yeah, that's probably a good idea, even if, you know, they're dry. Now this is oil. Don't get the wrong idea. That's oil. That's not leaking. Even if they're all remaining dry, who's to say how long, right? So if you've come this far, why not go ahead and replace those springs? That is a lot of work to get back into this and have to do it later. It's a good idea to do it now. It's not that much. It doesn't cost that much to get some springs. So that's where we're at this point. Anywho, I just wanted to jump back in and show you what a little bit of a leak looks like. There we go. We're getting a little more moisture. Still not a terrible concern for me at all. I am going to replace the springs, so I'm not really worried about that at all. These are all good. That one is less than perfect. The rest of these, intake, exhaust, valves, all of them are perfect except for this guy right here, and you can see that. So, alright, I'm going to do the other head. It's going to be the exact same process, so I'm going to take care of that one, and then we'll be back with our next step. Stand by. Get you back in here one more time. This is the passenger head. This is the exhaust valve side. Okay, there is, what side is this? That's going to be 2. Little moist, not a big deal. It's taking a while for it to even kind of bead up. No big deal. 4, perfectly dry. 6, it's beading up a little bit. 8 seems to be getting wet right before our very eyes. Let's dry it off. Let's see. Seeping in a little bit. Dry it off again. Try to make it where it's not shiny. Now let's watch. Oh yeah. Here comes the moisture creeping back in. So there you have it. There's a couple examples, and there you go. Look at 6. 6 is getting wet again. There's a couple of examples of what those leaks might look like. 4 is staying dry. 2 is moist, but it's not really, you know, wet compared to, look what these guys are doing. Yeah. So 6 and 8, you know, it's a good thing we're pulling springs. and which that's probably the only problem. The springs are weak, and you can see I've got these filled all the way up. So that's what a leak might look like. This still is not terrible. You could run your vehicle like this. If it wasn't in the budget, or if you didn't have the time, or whatever the problem is, to pull those springs and possibly even check to see about what your valves are doing, you could get by with that. That's not going to ruin anything. I had a V6 out of a Mustang once that, I mean, it dribbled out a little, you know, and it wasn't a situation where we could do anything about it at the time, and we ran it like that and really didn't have much problems. You know, gonna be a little bit more what do you call it, I guess, kind of burning of things, smoking of things, carboning up of things. Nothing runs as good, you know, when you have little leaks like this. But it'll leak and it's not going to break down. You're not going to end up on the side of the road yet. You eventually will. So if you have the, you know, if it's possible, get those out of there, get these springs replaced, which I think is what we're going to be doing next. I may throw another little section in here, but I think the next thing on the agenda is pulling the springs, cleaning all this up, and getting new. We're going to do, inside this spring, there's a dampener. It looks like another spring inside this one, and then your valve stem runs right through the middle of it. There is a valve seal on that valve stem. Replacing that, and then replacing with new springs with good strong tension again. So that's where we're going to go as far as rebuilding this portion here. Going to clean this up, make everything, you know, seat and fit as good as possible, but we'll get to that. So next big step is going to be springs and valves. So it's going to be a little bit for me because I got other things I need to take care of, but it shouldn't take long for you. It's going to seem pretty quick. So ready and go. Haha, just kidding. I'm not going to do the springs just yet. I'm going to have to get them ordered. So rather than sit here idle, we're going to go ahead and move on to something else. So I'm going to call this the end of part 3. And I think part 4 we're going to go to timing cover and gears and chain and pulling the lifters and cam. So we're going to end this one here. Y'all stick around, more to come.